Hello there and welcome to this video where we're going to be talking about relationships and emotional intelligence. Relationships are one of the most important factors in determining your overall happiness, and emotional intelligence is a major factor in your relationships. So we'll discuss all of that in this video. In this context, when we talk about relationships, we're really talking about long-term marriage relationships. And there's several areas that we need to talk about regarding emotional intelligence. That is self-awareness, your ability to self-regulate, show empathy, ability to communicate, and your own personal resilience. All those we'll be discussing in more depth next. The first part of really developing this emotional intelligence in the context of relationship, really across the spectrum, but because we're talking about relationships, this is where we're going with it. It is your self-awareness. When you begin to identify what it is that triggers you, what annoys you, what are those behaviors, what are those things that begin to get you a little frustrated, irritated, that self-awareness is crucial for beginning to do some self-reflection on all that. What is the strategy you're operating on once that trigger happens, right? In other words, why and how does it trigger you? When we begin to focus on the question of how, the process, then you can begin to make shifts in your own thinking so that you can take control over those emotions rather than those emotions controlling you. It all begins with getting them down on paper, identifying what are those things that trigger me, that annoy me, that irritate me. What are those negative emotions that I experience, and what is it that sets me off? Identifying the trigger, the next step there in this self-awareness is the process. Then what do you do? When that trigger happens, that's external, then you go internal, and maybe you'll visualize something or you'll say something to yourself. That next step, you want to begin to try to understand, and then what comes next, right? Typically, when those things really trigger us, we don't have very many intermediary steps. So we get the trigger, we get the emotion, and we're missing some things in between that allow us to then take command and control. You want to discover those, you want to become aware of those. That's the first step. Self-regulation is the next part. Once you've identified, once you become aware of your triggers and your patterns of running the programs that you run, now you can begin to evaluate it, right? So I want to get better at this. I react too quickly for this trigger. The self-regulation begins in managing that strategy. Typically, you need to probably put in some new steps in the process. Say something to yourself. Maybe you take a deep breath, change your body posture, something to interrupt the old pattern, put in a new step in the process so you don't quickly react. That's the ultimate kind of concept here, right? Regulation means you are in control. Begins with awareness, but then it's interrupting the old pattern often enough that you can't replay that. That all starts with awareness and probably installing some new steps. Some of the most powerful steps that you can install would be a change in your body language, right? Your breath is a very quick way to get control of your emotions, also changing what you are picturing or saying to yourself. So those would be kind of the steps in the process of gaining that self-regulation. Now, in this process of looking at your strategy, one of the steps that's very powerful to put in place, again, this is through repetition. You become aware, you begin to feel it, you change your initial emotions through breath work or some other step that you've had, change your pictures. Part of the next step you would likely want to consider putting into this is asking yourself some different questions, like how are they hearing this? What are they experiencing? Why are they getting angry or irritated or upset? What are their triggers? Anything that you can say to yourself to begin to imagine what they are seeing, what they are hearing, what they are experiencing. You put yourself in that position. You walk in their shoes. All those kind of adages is what you want to work on doing. Again, this takes practice. It takes conscious effort and work. Some people do that really well, really naturally. Others, you got to work at it a little bit more. The power in it can be quite profound. I've shared this story in some other videos, but I think my mom my dad wasn't very emotional or all. He was just kind of never showed emotions really. Short-tempered at times, but some of the other emotions. But my mom really taught, I think, emotional intelligence. So I developed a certain level of that when I was fairly young. And I didn't realize until a young adult the impact I had on one particular boy who had moved to our town. His family went to our church, and he was on my Little League team. He was 9, I was 12, and I happened to be one of the leaders on that team. And so kids were being mean, picking on him, teasing him. And I basically told them, knock it off. Give the kid a break, will you? And they did. And that helped him begin to blossom. I showed emotional intelligence. I don't remember doing that, but his mom told me years later that had a profound impact on him. Once we kind of learn to walk in the other person's shoes, that's going to help our communication because we aren't reactive to just our emotions and just to our trigger. But we still want to begin to understand that most communication is through our body language and the tone of voice. Words do matter. Words have meaning, absolutely. But our ability to communicate through our body language is really important. Our our muscle tones around our face, our eyes, the ability to smile or to even laugh at yourself, never the other person, right? To laugh at something that we did, to communicate and own your role in things. All those are really important aspects in communication. When my wife and I had our moments of, I won't say disagreement, but when we were being caught up in stress, oftentimes it was financial. Trying all these steps really helped the process, and neither one of us ever wanted to hurt the other one, right? So sometimes in our communication, we were holding back and learning to express some of that, but using empathetic words and all. When we got better at that, it really helped our relationship, deepen it, and made those difficult times, getting through those, much more manageable. Resilience is that final piece I just want to mention, and it really comes through going through these experiences, right? The longer you're with somebody, the more you get to be sharing some of these stressors together, and you come through those. You communicate, you help each other. You might be going through something that your partner will really help you through, and vice versa, and then maybe it's something together, right? Like you're both kind of experiences as something that's happened within your relationship, and you work through that. Each step in that process, each time you go through that, builds a stronger bond. It adds to this mutual resilience. It makes the long-term relationship much more likely to happen. Each time we end one of these videos, I'm always encouraging you to subscribe to my channel because it will help us in Google searches so that the people who need to hear a particular video will be more likely to be able to find it. So I encourage you to subscribe, check out other videos. In particular, you might be interested in checking out the video, how do you improve your emotional intelligence? So check that out today and come back and see us in another.